This video is about the challenge of how do we ensure the integrity of examinations in online courses. In other words, how do we know that the students are not cheating? I'll tell you what I haven't done is I've not tried to use a camera to actually observe them in real time taking their exam, much as the way that you would normally proctor a regular in-class exam. I just don't think it's too possible. Now that means that you might have to alter the kind of exam you give or the way you give it. So I'm going to suggest 4 possible solutions. The first solution is to give some kind of alternative assignment to the exam. What I've noticed is students generally don't complain when you give them more options of how to get a good grade. They complain when certain options are lost. So the alternative assignment that I frequently give is doing a project instead of an exam, or simply being more active on the discussion board. I find that these two kinds of activities require the student to be engaged more over a longer period of time, and also I get to see the student's progress so that it's less likely that someone else is doing the work of the student. A second alternative is to have the exam done within the Canvas learning management system. There are many kinds of questions that can be used. I think multiple choice is perhaps the easiest to construct and definitely the easiest to score. Now the challenge with an online exam through Canvas is, first of all, the student could be looking up the answers. That's true, but I've decided not to fight that. Indeed, I've made all quizzes and exams OpenNote, OpenBook, and Open Internet. Now what that means is I've got to construct the questions so that they're hard enough so the students simply won't find them in the notes or find them in the book or find an easy answer in Wikipedia. A second challenge is, suppose the student is getting help from a friend, another student in the class. So let's look at some of the security features that do apply to a Canvas multiple choice exam. What some professors do is set a time window, like everybody's got to take this exam between 7 and 9 p.m. on Friday. Since most of my students take online because they like the time flexibility, I haven't used this option. Those professors who have used it usually get a lot of complaints about students who want exceptions. A second possibility is to have a fixed time limit, like you only have an hour to complete this exam, therefore you don't have enough time to collaborate or perhaps even to look up the answers. Once again, I have not employed this solution because I think a lot of students, especially those with verifiable disabilities, are going to have problems with it. One solution that I have utilized is for the multiple items to be presented one at a time and to prohibit backtracking. That means that students, when they figure out that a previous answer was wrong, can't go back and change it. Another thing I use is randomizing the order of presentation. That way 2 students can't be on the phone saying, well, number 4's correct answer is this, because they have different items for number 4. Another thing that really helps is to have a large pool of items. Now this is going to take longer to construct, but within a learning management system like Canvas, you can have perhaps 200 possible items in your pool, and each student will get a different randomized selection of 100 items out of that 200 item pool. It makes the student study a lot more, and it makes it less likely that one student can help another student on an exam. The third solution that I'm going to suggest is an exam that I call True False to True True. And the way it works is I give a student 100 statements based upon things that are learned in the course. And the student's task is to make all of those 100 statements true. Now, some of those items, a minority, are true already. And the student has to simply leave true statements true as is. And if those statements are changed, the student will lose a point. So the student has to read each statement carefully and figure out if it is true, leave it, and if it's not true, how to change it. Change it by altering a word, a date, or a number. Let me give you an example. Suppose we have the item, Siddhartha was the founder of Buddhism. That's true, and all the student has to do to get credit for that item is to leave it as is. But suppose the item was, Siddhartha was the founder of Islam. That's false. But for the student to get credit for it, the student can't merely say false. The student has to figure out how to make it true. Well, don't allow the student simply to put the word not in there. Don't allow the student to say, I don't know if Siddhartha was the founder of Islam. Now that's a true statement. The student has to change a word, usually a word that I'll help them by italicizing, into something else to make it true. So here, Muhammad was the founder of Islam. Now that's true. Sometimes I'll highlight or italicize two different words and say, you can make this true by changing either one. Or if you think it's true already, just leave it the way it is. So here, the student could make it true by saying, Siddhartha was the founder of Buddhism, or what we said before, Muhammad was the founder of Islam. Here's another example. Loyola was a 16th century Protestant theologian. And that's false. And if the student changes 16th to some other answer, that'll probably be wrong also. In this particular item, there's two ways to make it correct. You could change Protestant to Catholic. Now it works. St. Ignatius was Catholic. Or you could change the first part to Luther, and there's a 16th century Protestant theologian for you, or change it to Calvin. There's another possible answer. The fourth possible solution is to give a take-home essay exam. Once again, open note, open book, open internet. And with the last two examples, the true-false to true-true exam and the essay exam, it's pretty easy to catch the cheaters, because the cheaters are going to copy their wrong answers from somebody else. And not only do they copy the wrong answers, they even copy the typos. And that's pretty conclusive evidence that cheating has taken place. So those are my suggestions for how to do your exams in an online course. Students seem to like them. I get very few complaints. And once again, the more options you give them, the less they have to complain about.